All right, class, settle down. You have read the first scene of the play, right? Okay, let's treat this like a serious literature lesson, not just reading, but thinking like an exam candidate. We just read scene 1 of Once Upon an Elephant, and I want to show you how much meaning is hidden in what looks like a simple conversation. Welcome back to my channel where I break down literature text so that you can pass your exams in flying colors. Okay, let's go there. On the surface, we see a grove, that's a sacred plate, rituals being performed, a young man called Ajanaku or Olaniyonu being prepared, and we have 3 elders, namely Serubawan, Odejimi, Ogundele, arguing. But don't be deceived. This is not just a ritual scene. This is a political conspiracy in progress. Ask yourself, why is this happening in secret? Why are only 4 of us present? Why is Ajanaku told not to see his father? These are all signs that something illegal or unethical is happening. Let's be very clear. Serubawan is planning a coup, but not with soldiers, with tradition. He is manipulating rituals, using the Olubori rites, avoiding the proper king-making process. He's bribing the other elders because he brought gifts. Now, pause. What does this remind you of in real life? Corruption, yes. This is how systems are broken. Not always violently, but quietly, cleverly, and secretly. Do you remember what I said in my first video about why African leaders can get away with changing term limits and extending their tenures as they please? It's simply because term limits are legal rather than physical barriers. Because these leaders have enough political control, they simply change the law to remove the limits. Also, when a president controls the parliament or the judiciary, changing the law becomes easier for him. Redrafting the nation's constitution makes it easier for these leaders to reset the rules on terms in office. Weak civil society and external silence have become complicit in this situation. In case you missed that video, you can listen to it using the link showing somewhere on. Let us do some character analysis, which is very important for exams. We will begin with Serubawan. This man is dangerous. He speaks calmly but manipulates everything. He avoids direct questions and avoids direct answers. He justifies wrongdoing using logic. He represents what we call kingmaker. A kingmaker is a person behind the power. He is not the one in power, but he has equal control of the state as the one in power. Do you know any kingmaker in your country? Here is a key line to remember. When Serubawan says, "What is a tradition without the 3 of us here?" That line is shocking. It means he believes he can redefine tradition to suit himself. Then we have Odejimi. He is a character that stands for truth and tradition. He questions everything and refuses bribery. He represents moral resistance. An important line he says, and is a Waec type quotation from him: "Truth never goes astray." Take note of that quotation. Another important character we see in the first scene is Ogundele. Now, this is where it gets interesting. He knows what is wrong, but he's afraid. He hesitates. He eventually collects the gifts. He represents the weak institutions and the weak majority in society. People who know the truth but don't act, and that is dangerous. Finally, we have the main character, Ajanaku, also called Olaniyonu. Even though he leaves early, notice that he doesn't question the process deeply. He is eager for power and he trusts Serubawan blindly. This shows ambition without wisdom. A lot of leaders in Africa are very ambitious for power, but have little wisdom to back up their inordinate ambitions, which is why they sometimes commit serious blunders while they are in office. There are key themes introduced in scene 1 that I want you to take note of. The first one is abuse of power. Power is abused, seized, manipulated, and rushed. This connects to African political history. For example, Idi Amin, Hosni Mubarak, and the rest of them. The second theme here is corruption. We see evidence when gifts are offered, silence is bought, process is ignored. Corruption is not loud, it is subtle, which is why many people fall deep into it without realizing they have compromised their values. The first theme here is tradition versus manipulation. Serubawon uses tradition as an excuse. Here is an important idea. Tradition can be weaponized. Yes, this is why it is very important that institutions of the state are empowered to withstand the control of leaders. If not, manipulation of tradition becomes inevitable. The first thing here is silence and complicity. Ogundele collects the gifts. This is critical. He collects the gifts, even succeeds not because of bad people, but because of silent people. Edmund Burke rightly said, all that is necessary for the triumph of evil is that good men do nothing. Wow, we've covered a lot already. Can we now look at the dramatic techniques that are used in the scene? The first one is the setting of the scene. The setting is in the grove, which is a sacred space. This symbolizes hidden power and danger. Then we have sound as another technique employed here. We hear gong and chants of Ogun. This is used to create tension and rituals. Then we hear the dialogue, which is another dramatic technique, which are full of questions and evasive answers. This is to show conflicts and deception. Finally, we see symbolism. When the word bath is mentioned, it means purification, but here it symbolizes manipulation. Then the word carcass is used to show disrespect for the king. There are some important lines you must understand, and let's break them down one by one. Serubawon says, of what use is a king who is unable to perform his duty? You both saw what was left of him a few days ago. Of what use is that mere carcass? This is not just insults. It shows lack of respect, justification for removing a leader, and a dangerous thinking. If you are weak, you deserve to be replaced. Now ask yourself, who should decide that a leader is no longer fit to rule? Here is a deep hidden question, a high-level thinking question. Why is Serubawon in a hurry? Think carefully. The king is still alive. The process is incomplete, and everything is done in secret. Something is not natural here, right? So this is a clue that he is very important for later in the play. And of course, I want to end this class without giving you some sample Waec and NECO essay questions that you may likely see on the day of your exams. So be ready for questions like this. Number 1, discuss the theme of corruption in scene 1 of the play. To answer this question, you should mention things like gifts, secrecy, manipulation, etc. Okay? Number 2, examine the character of Serubawon as a political manipulator. To answer this question, you should use his speeches and actions. Number 3, how does the writer present conflict in scene 1? When you are answering this type of question, focus on the dialogue between the 3 elders, okay? Because that dialogue shows conflict. And then you have number 4, discuss the role of tradition in the play. In answering this question, show how tradition is both respected and abused. Finally, number 5, compare Odejimi and Ogundele as moral figures. This is a simple comparison between two characters with very different dispositions and values. You should point those out too when you're doing the comparison. Okay, since we know that you are still going to be reading this play for JAMB, I made some practice questions for JAMB objectives. That is multiple choice questions. Let's train your thinking. Choose the correct answer from the options. The first question, the grove 1 mainly symbolizes A, celebration, B, secrecy, C, poverty, and D, war. If your answer is B, then you're right. Correct answer is B. Let's go to the second question. Cerebral can best be described as A, honest and loyal, B, weak and fearful, C, manipulative and strategic, and D, ignorant. You're right. The correct answer is C. Number 3, Ogundele's action at the end shows A, courage, B, loyalty, C, compromise, and D, wisdom. Yes, answer C is the right answer. Finally, number 4, the major conflict in scene 1 is between A, tradition and modernity, B, truth and manipulation, C, rich and poor, D, youth and age. Of course, the answer is B. Well done. You have done so well. Let me leave you with this. The real danger in this scene is not Ajanaku. It is not even the ritual. It is Cerebral one and people like Odundele who allow him succeed. Are you surprised? Think deeply as you answer these questions. If you were Odejimi, would you speak out? Or would you stay silent like Odundele? Because those questions are not just about the play. They are about the society. If this lesson has been useful to you, please subscribe, like, and hit the notification button. And get ready for the next class. Bye.